if we surrender our ego, love wins. It's when our ego gets in the way that we forget, what would love do? What would love do if we just surrender and open up to the infinite possibilities? So today is the second in the series of this month using the Mastery of Love, Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements. I'm using this book to base some of my talks on. And so the theme for this month is the Mastery of Love, because many of us think that this is the month for lovers. And love shows up in many ways. It doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. It can be your best friend. It can be your children. It can be your parents. It can be a variety of people. Because what it is there are only two people in a relationship. No matter how many relationships you have, how many people are around, in a relationship there are only two, you and the other person. And it's where you're coming from, and when you're in that moment of now that you remember, love wins. I just really, really loved it. I was so, like I even feel calmer than I normally am just from this of listening. I was just transported to another place. And so I'm reminded that the talk today is about the perfect relationship. And many of us have ideals of what the perfect relationship would be. There are books written on it. There are workshops written on it. There's a lot of money made on it. And why do you think that is? Everybody is searching for love. Isn't that funny? We want love, and what I'm suggesting is perhaps the reason you want it is you don't feel you have it. And you don't have it in here. Because when you have it in here, whether you have it out there is totally unimportant. You are the one that feeds you love. And it's how you feel about yourself. And so sometimes for me, the journey of this life is about acceptance and loving myself and then sharing that with others. For I also believe that when you give out love, you get love back. And you get it back so much more than you give out. But it creates that energy and that reciprocation, and it flows out. There is a series in the book. You can see I have lots of quotes in here, and I'm not going to quote every one of them. But in here there's a chapter about the track of love and the track of fear. Because that's kind of the two tracks that run parallel, side by side. And like many of us, we vacillate from one to the other. There are little triggers. It's kind of like traveling on the freeway. There are little turnoffs and exits. And sometimes you get off at the wrong exit and you got to get back on. And that's what this journey about love is. So when you get off, it's not the end of your world. It's not the end of your journey. You get back on. So what he talks about, the track of love and the track of fear, is, I really like the way he sets this up. Your whole life is nothing but a dream. You live in a fantasy where everything you know about yourself is only true for you. And the reason I like that is I kept running that over like I love chocolate fudge. And I kept running this over and over and tasting it and thinking how true that is. Because if you're a little bit like me, you believe everybody sees the world the way you do, or the way I do. I'm looking with these eyes, and what I'm seeing, I'm thinking you're seeing the same thing. And therein lies the problem. This is not true. It's not true at all. And yet we run into trouble sometimes when we try to convince people to see what we're seeing when they're not even looking with the same eyes. It's like, how do you do that? And why do we think that our vision of what we're seeing is the right one? It's all colored by our experiences. We could, like, two of us look at the same thing and see two totally different results. And that's the way love is. So every human being has a personal dream of life, and that dream is completely different from anyone else's dream. And usually what causes hurt and suffering is we think their dream is our dream, or we don't understand why if they love us, they don't understand our dream. And agree with it and want to feed it. Because we think, of course, we're the most important part in this whole thing. And there are, of course, those of us who give out love, and we think we give out love and we're such caring individuals, but that's not unconditional love all the time. Sometimes there's a tag. And the tag is, I want something back. I love you and I care for you, but I want you to think and say something about me or feel something back from me. We don't really just always give out love expecting nothing back. When you give out love from that position, I believe you get so much back because you've set up no expectations. You're just giving it out because you want to. One of the things I was searching for different little pictures. Every Sunday or every Saturday I do this. I put on a couple pictures, and I put on the pictures of the musicians, and I put up a little short blurb about my talk, and one time I put it on our Facebook page for the church, and next time I put it on my personal page, because I have a lot more followers than the church does. I want to get people in here. I love you all, but I want to see more of you. So what I was looking at, and so earlier this week I put on about, 5, 6 different things that just caught my eye. And I started getting these reactions, and it was kind of cute because some people had ideas about what I should be showing. And I thought it was interesting because what I was trying to do is demonstrate that one of the first things I put up was a checklist. And it was, this man must have this, must have that, must have this, must have. And somebody says, well, the first thing I do is get rid of the checklist. But you know what? Many of us have a checklist. Whether it's written down or not, we have a checklist. And we want you to meet our expectation. And even if we haven't told you what our expectation is, we want you to meet it. And we get upset with you when you don't. We think you don't love us. Because when you love us, you ought to know what's inside our brain. But that's a relationship piece. We don't. And when you open it up and you don't have any expectations, you can receive. And you really actually get to enjoy the differences. That was another thing I put up there, was about celebrating our differences. And somebody else responded something like, well, why don't you try to be the person you're seeking? And I used to have that idea. But then I thought, you know what? I like me. There are certain parts of me I don't like, but there are other parts of me that I really like. And then there's some I'm not so sure. But I don't want somebody like me. Heck, I can look in the mirror. I can talk to myself. I want somebody who's a little bit different. I came in this life not to be bored to death. I came in this life to have a little excitement and a little challenge, a little fun. Along the way, I've had a little pain. I sometimes could have done without the pain. But I think what happens is when you feel the pain, then you also feel the opposite of the happiness. What I call unbridled joy, where I'm just so ecstatic. I can't even tell you why or how, and I can't even express it in words. And that makes it even more special to me. And so what he talks about in the tracks of love and the tracks of fear, he says, we have hundreds of relationships at the same time. Actually, he used thousands, and I thought, I don't think I have 1,000 relationships. Hundreds of relationships at the same time, but every relationship says only 2 people. Your dreams are made by emotions. Your dreams are made by emotions. Love and fear. Certain characteristics are, love has no obligations. Fear is full of obligations. There are resistance versus want to do it. When you come from a point of love, you want to do it. You know that you've had that feeling when you just love somebody, you just want to do something for them, and you're not asking for anything back. You just want to do it. When you have fear, you have resistance. You do it because you have to do it. It's kind of like me going to the doctor. Some part of me wants to go for my annual physical to get patted on the back and told me how good it is, my health is. The other part of me is a fear. I'm afraid he'll find something I haven't thought about. So then there's love has no expectation. Fear is full of expectations. Have you ever talked to somebody and they talk about what's happening on, and they go immediately to all the things that could happen there, dire consequences in their life? They don't share with you, oh, I don't have this, I don't know what's going to happen about this, but these are all the great possibilities. They don't. They go to the negatives. And then love is based on respect. I like this part. And this one I had a little trouble with. I had to wrap my head around it a couple times, so you may not quite agree with me or agree with the author, but he says love is based on respect. Fear doesn't respect anything. Fear doesn't respect anything, including itself. So if I don't respect you, I try to control you. If I don't respect myself, I try to control myself. Because I don't think that I can do it. Or I don't trust myself. Or I don't respect myself. And love is ruthless. It doesn't feel sorry for anyone. And when I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't like that. You know, because every once in a while I say, gee, I'm sorry you feel that way. Or I'm sorry this. And I thought, oh, am I not being respectful? But what it talks about is the fact that love is ruthless, doesn't feel sorry for anyone, but it has compassion. So do you get the fine twist there? You don't feel sorry for somebody, because sorry for somebody feels they're not up to it, or something is lacking, or there's something wrong. But if you have compassion, you're with them in their journey and their pain and when things like that. But you're not trying to fix them. You're not trying to move them out of it. You're not feeling sorry for them. You have compassion for them. There's a difference. When you feel sorry for them, you feel like they're not quite up to it. When you have compassion for them, and they stumble or they fall or they fail, you extend a hand and you help them back up and you give them encouragement and say, I know you can do it. Go ahead. Do you see the understanding and the difference? So it's from whence you came. Where are you coming from? Are you coming from this place of unconditional love and love? And how are you supporting one another? How do you want to support yourself? When you fail at something, do you berate yourself like an angry parent? Or do you support yourself? Do you respect yourself? Do you know who you are? Do you love who you are? Can you accept who you are regardless of whatever judgment sheet you lined up against yourself? Can you just say, hey, I'm doing the best I am. I'm on this journey, and wherever I am is perfect just the way it is, because I'm in this perfect place right now, and I love me just the way I am. That doesn't mean you're not going to change. That doesn't mean you're not going to make shifts or things like that. But what's wrong with loving yourself just where you are? Wrap yourself up in love. When you wrap yourself up in love, you don't need love from anybody. See how freeing that is? You don't need love from anybody when you love yourself. That is very freeing, because then when you get love, isn't it a gift? It's kind of like the frosting on your favorite cake. So it's something special. And I believe that when you give out love, you have this radiance, this shining, that you're doing something because you absolutely want to, not because you have to. And it comes back at you. So love is always kind. Fear is unkind. With fear, we are full of obligations and expectations. Anger is nothing but fear with a mask of sadness, jealousy. Mask of fear creates suffering. And I was thinking about that from a Buddhist standpoint. You know, Buddha talked about releasing our suffering, and I have to think about, my gosh, all he's talking about is really our own liberation. Our liberation of obligations that you have to do this for me to make me feel better. I have to do these things for myself so that I can open up to love. These are the things I do for myself because this is where the love begins. And then love is unconditional. Fear is full of conditions. Think about that. Every once in a while we get into fear, and it's all about that. And then here's the real hook. I love this one. This is one I have to practice all the time. But I will tell you something. I was thinking about that. I'll give you the quote first because you won't know what I'm talking about in a minute. We don't have the right to change anyone else. Hello? We don't have the right to change anyone else. And no one else has the right to change us. If we are going to change, it's because we want to change and because we don't want to suffer any longer. That's why one of the things I try to do with people is when they talk about treating for somebody, our spiritual mind treatment for her, we're not fixing anybody because nobody needs to be fixed. They're not broken. And we don't get to be the authority on whether that somebody needs to be fixed or not. So what I was going to say is part of that is this bracelet that I've been wearing, and believe it or not, this is my 30th day this time. Whoa. This is a complaint-free world. And I say this time because I had a day when I had to switch. But what it does for me, it allows me to enter into relationships in an entirely different way. Because when I've been working on a complaint-free world, and I've been looking at the things that have been going on with me, and I start looking at how to release those, and it's around expectations, then all of a sudden I give my friends a lot of freedom because I don't put expectations on them. Guess who is the real benefit of that? Me. I get to be free. I don't have expectations. I don't get to be hurt. I don't have to complain because I don't make you responsible. I don't make you responsible for anything for me. And I'm not responsible for you. I'm your minister, and I'll give you as many words of wisdom as I can, and you get to choose whether to like them, not like them, accept them, or not. And I won't take it personally. It's all up to you. Because what works for you is especially works for you. It may not work for you, everything I say. And what I say is only something I've read and put my own little twist on it anyway. It's nothing original. Even Ernest Holmes, the great synthesizer. I would love to model myself after him, but I think the man was brilliant in how he put all this together.
Me too.
But one of the things that we have to be careful is when you talk about this, we talk about selfish, self-love. Self-love, it's not that I am selfish, I just don't need a big victim near me. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but I cannot take responsibility for your dream. That is about self-respect. That is the love you have for yourself. You can say, I don't like it when you try to take advantage of me, when you disrespect me, and when you're unkind to me. That's self-love. That's self-respect. There's nothing wrong with that. Because you're not coming from a victim mentality. When you say that, you're coming from a position of strength, power, and love for yourself. You're just saying, hey, I don't need to have a victim hanging out with me. I love you. Come back and see me when you get rid of that. Or you can have them hang around and you use a comparison. Just don't get poisoned. The perfect relation he talks about is if you accept the fact that you're not going to change a dog for a cat or a dog for a horse, it is what it is. Just accepting that fact in your relations with other human beings is inescapable. And I thought about that. I thought, isn't that true? Now I've had a dog, a golden retriever, full of love, had a mind of its own, loved me no matter what I did to it. I disciplined it. I do other things, and it didn't care. It wanted to crawl up in my lap. I wanted to lick my hand, lick my face. I didn't like to be licked by the face because I know where else they lick. But they love you no matter what. Cats, I had a cat too. This cat loved me when it wanted to love me. Did not care when I wanted to be loved. Very independent. I never tried to make the cat the dog. I never made the dog the cat. And what he says in here, why don't we treat our relationships the same way? Why do you try to change the humans in your relationships? Why do you try to make somebody something they're not? Now, why did you like them to begin with? Mm-hmm. And if you like them, why are you trying to change them? If you're trying to change them, that must mean you don't like them. Or you don't like something. Well, why not? Can you accept it? Do you expect them to accept you? Do you expect them to come with a checklist of what they want you to do to change? So why should you come with a checklist? So when you open yourself up to this, you see how exciting this can be? Because the dog doesn't really try to make you a better master. Your cat doesn't care. Absolutely doesn't. Or my cat didn't. Your cat might love you. Just beat me. But my cat was, where isn't there food in my bowl now? That was it. So if you know how do you know your partner's right for you? I love this one. How do you know if your partner is right for you? The answer is you don't. You need to explore and take the risk. The right one is the one you love just the way they are. The one you do not need to change at all. The one who loves you just the way you are because they don't want to change you. Because if they do, why are you in the relationship? And that's the other question I thought was really in here, is when we're in relationships, it's about not being alike. It's about knowing, they used an example of a key fitting in the lock. It's about a match. It's about, do you have the right key in the right lock? And you know that some of us had skeleton keys, and some of us, and that's a vision that I had. I remembered all these skeleton keys when I was a kid. Always trying to find the right one. There weren't that many variations, but trying to find the right one to open the lock. And that's relationships. We're trying to find the one that fits, is a match, that works for us. But what happens if you're in a relationship already? I like this one. And it says, perhaps you already have a certain amount of time invested in a relationship, so you can choose to keep going. You can still have a new beginning by accepting and loving your partner just as they are. So that you can choose. Are you in the right relationship? Don't know. Check it out. Maybe it's time for a new beginning. If you find that when you look that you're hanging on to a lot of stuff from the past, if you're hanging on a lot of expectations, maybe you want to look at that. If you're in the wrong relationship, maybe you want to take a risk and look at it, maybe get out of it, free the partner you're with, and free yourself to find the right relationship. If you're in the relationship that you don't like the way it is right now, but you don't want to leave it because you've got 30 years invested in it, maybe what you say is, hey, how can we let go of the past and restructure it for tomorrow? How can we set it up so I respect you for who you are? I love the differences that you have because we have some common values together that we're like the key and the lock. And we will work them out to let the freedom go and flow. This can work for anybody. This can work for intimate relationships. It can work for friendships. It can work for churches. It can work for bosses. It can work for anybody. The idea is, what are you trying to control? And are you controlling out of fear? And where is the love in that? Where is the respect for that? Where is the love for yourself? Because what he says, I love this. Your garbage is your garbage, and you are the person who has to deal with it. Their garbage is their garbage, and they have to deal with it. Nobody hired you to be the cleanup person. And you didn't hire the other person to come in and clean up yours. And most of us are pretty protective usually about our garbage. It's our garbage. We may think it smells, we may not like it, but it's ours. We're attached to it. We'll get rid of it when we need to get rid of it. And so that's what it is. What do you expect out of your partner? What do you expect out of your relationship? What is it that you expect? And whatever it is, release it. Just let go. How would it feel if you had no expectations? How would it feel if you just were willing to say, I love you just the way you are and just the way you are not? Because there are two sides to that coin. And then that other person has a choice to either love you or love you back the same way. And they're loving you with conditions. Maybe you want to explore that. Because that's a self-respect piece. There is self-respect and self-love in this whole thing. You are one half of a perfect relationship. And the perfect relationship may be comprised of two imperfect people who are traveling the journey, who want to be together for one reason or another at that point in time. If you are aware that no one else can make you happy and that happiness is a result of love coming out of you, this becomes the greatest mastery of the Toltec, the mastery of love. The only way to master love is to practice love. You don't need to justify your love. You don't need to explain your love. You just need to practice love. Practice creates the master. Thank you.